Amy sat alone on the edge of the cliffside, her eyes scanning the horizon as the ocean waves crashed against the rocks below. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, but she barely noticed. Her mind was far too busy to appreciate the beauty around her. Her thoughts were wrapped around Golden Heart, this newcomer who had entered her life so quietly, yet so profoundly. She sighed, pulling her knees to her chest. She had been avoiding him for days now. It wasn't that she disliked him, quite the opposite actually. He was kind, too kind. His patience and warmth confused her. Most people would have given up by now, written her off as distant, maybe even rude. But not him. No matter how much space she put between them, Golden Heart remained present. Not overbearing, not pushing her, but always quietly there, like a gentle breeze she couldn't escape. And it scared her. She rested her chin on her knees, feeling the tightness in her chest grow. Why did he keep trying? Why was he still here? Amy had been cold, distant, giving him every signal to back off. It wasn't like she hadn't noticed his interest in her. She could see it in the way he looked at her, the way his eyes softened when they talked. But even with those gentle smiles and kind gestures, she couldn't shake the fear. Trust was not something she could give easily, not anymore. The memories of her past flickered in her mind, uninvited but all too familiar. She remembered the pain of betrayal, the sting of broken promises, and the walls she had built to protect herself. Those walls had kept her safe. At least, that's what she kept telling herself. But now, with Golden Heart around, she wasn't so sure anymore. What if he was different? What if this time she wasn't setting herself up for more heartache? Amy shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts.
Stop it!
She muttered to herself.
You don't know him, not really.
But that was the problem, wasn't it? She didn't know him, and that terrified her. Every time Golden Heart showed her kindness, every time he smiled that patient smile, it chipped away at the defenses she had worked so hard to build. She didn't want to let anyone in again. It was easier to keep her distance, to avoid getting hurt. But avoiding him had started to make her feel guilty. Amy clenched her fists, frustration bubbling up inside her. She had no right to feel guilty. Golden Heart hadn't done anything wrong. He was just being himself. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that she was punishing him for something that wasn't his fault. The villagers spoke highly of him. She had overheard their conversations, how helpful he had been, how he seemed to brighten the day of those around him. She had seen it herself too, the way he interacted with everyone, no matter who they were. He was so genuine. Her heart ached. She wasn't used to that anymore, genuine people. It felt foreign, almost threatening, like a trap she couldn't afford to fall into. What if he was just like the others? What if his kindness was only temporary, only there until he got what he wanted? She couldn't let herself hope for anything different. But what if he wasn't like the others? That thought lingered in her mind, and Amy hated it. She didn't want to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope made you vulnerable. And right now, being vulnerable was the last thing she wanted. She let out another sigh, burying her face in her arms. She was tired of this constant push and pull in her heart. Part of her wanted to reach out, to take a chance, but the stronger part kept pulling her back, telling her it wasn't worth the risk. Golden Heart was kind, yes, but that didn't mean he wouldn't hurt her in the end. Why was she so scared of him? Amy closed her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. Maybe it wasn't him she was afraid of. Maybe it was the idea that someone like him could actually care. Maybe it was the possibility that he wouldn't hurt her. that he might actually be someone she could trust, and that terrified her more than anything. She stood up, brushing off the dirt from her skirt, feeling the weight of her emotions pressing down on her. She didn't know what to do. Every instinct told her to keep avoiding him, to stay safe behind her walls. But deep down, there was a part of her that wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, Golden Heart wasn't going to break her the way others had. But for now, she wasn't ready to let those walls fall. Not yet. With a heavy heart, Amy turned away from the cliffside and made her way back to the village. She knew Golden Heart was still there, still waiting. But for now, she needed more time. Time to figure out what she wanted and time to understand why this was so hard. As she walked back, her thoughts swirled with regret and confusion. She wasn't sure how much longer she could keep this distance between them. But for now, that distance was her safety net, and she wasn't ready to let it go. Not yet.